Just like Ultimate Ears, which released their Alexa-compatible smart speakers, the Blast and Mega Blast, JBL released their own smart speakers under their Link series lineup. But the major difference here is these JBL speakers work with Google Assistant instead. But although the JBL Link 10 and Link 20 sound much better than UE's new speakers, JBL still didn't quite stick at the landing. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and you can watch some of my other videos here after you're done watching this video. Right now, there are 3 JBL Link speakers to choose from, and they all either come in black or white. The smallest speaker is called the JBL Link 10, and it retails for $149.95. Then there's the slightly larger JBL Link 20, which retails for $199.95. And then the largest speaker in JBL's Link series lineup is the JBL Link 300, which retails for $249.95. But it doesn't have a built-in battery. And for comparison, your standard Google Home typically retails for $130, but usually goes on sale. If you want to pick either of these speakers up, I'll have links in the description below, and I'll keep them updated so you can get the best deal possible. And it also helps with the channel. The JBL Link 10 and Link 20 are pretty typical JBL speakers. You get the same bright orange USB charging cable and the same wall adapter. Well, except for the JBL Link 10, you don't get a wall adapter with that one, and I'll go into detail on why that's a huge mistake on JBL's part in a few. But both the Link 10 and Link 20 are IPX7 certified, just like most other JBL speakers, which means they can get wet without any issues. They also have the same fabric outer shells. On the front of the speaker, there's some LEDs that light up when Google starts listening to you when you say, "Hey Google" or "Okay Google." On the top, you've got your control buttons to adjust your music's volume, you can toggle Bluetooth on or off, you have a dedicated button to summon your Google Assistant, and you've got a play pause button as well. Obviously, if you press it, it'll play or pause your music, and if you double press, it'll skip a track. But unfortunately, triple pressing won't go back a track. And having these manual controls are a very welcome addition over the Google Home. With the Google Home, you can only adjust the volume or play or pause your music by using the trackpad controls, but you can't skip or go back a track. You can only do that by voice if your phone isn't around. And I just find it weird because I feel Google could just add a swipe left or swipe right gesture. On the back, you've got your power button with a fuel gauge on top, and below that, you also have a mic mute button which will shine orange on both the front and back of the speaker. And on the bottom, you've got a rubber grommet that houses the micro USB port for charging. But unfortunately, these speakers don't have an aux jack. You can only stream music with them over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. But at least switching between the two sources is pretty seamless, unlike the UE Blast and Mega Blast. What makes the Link 10 and Link 20 stand out is their Google Assistant integration, and it's super easy to set up. All you have to do is open the Google Home app on your phone, and setup takes a few minutes. And using Google Assistant on the JBL Link speakers is identical to using it on an actual Google Home. Response and processing times are the same. And for those who are new to Google Assistant, you can ask it questions, give it commands, or control your smart home just by asking, just to name a few. And Google Assistant is constantly gaining new abilities. Okay Google, what's the current price of Bitcoin?
1 BTC is approximately 9,431 United States dollars and 39 cents.
Okay Google, play that new G-Eazy song.
Sure, Summer in December by G-Eazy. Here it is on Google Play Music.
Hey Google, set the volume to 75%. Hey Google, stop. Hey Google, turn on Bluetooth.
Alright, looking for paired devices. Bluetooth is connected to iPhone.
Okay Google, what's the current price of Tesla stock?
Tesla stock is trading at $307.84 per share on Nasdaq as of 12:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, up 0.1% from yesterday.
And the range of these speakers is just as good as it is on the Google Home. You never really have to shout or enunciate your words so Google Assistant can hear you. Hey Google, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hey Google, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hey Google, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
But although JBL classifies these speakers as voice-activated portable speakers, I wouldn't use them in the same way I would that I use either the Flip 4, JBL Extreme, JBL Pulse 3, or so on. First off, battery life on these speakers is super weak. The Link 20 advertises a battery life of 10 hours, while the Link 10 advertises a battery life of 5 hours. And I routinely got less on both speakers, whereas the Flip 4 is good for about 14 hours, the JBL Extreme is good for about 16 hours, and the Pulse 3 is good for about 12 hours, depending on how you use it. Also, the Link 10 and Link 20 don't have JBL Connect Plus, so they can't be paired to other JBL speakers. And keep in mind, if the JBL Link speakers aren't connected to Wi-Fi, then Google Assistant won't work. Without Wi-Fi or access to Google Assistant, they instantly become overpriced Flip 4s that have a very bad battery life and don't have JBL Connect Plus. I like to look at the JBL Link series speakers as an alternative to a Google Home that have much better sound quality and happen to have a built-in battery that will last you a short listening session. Cause the Google Home doesn't have a built-in battery, and not to mention, these speakers do take a good amount of time to boot up. And as smart speakers are starting to get more and more popular, manufacturers are really starting to focus on sound quality. Something Google said they were focusing on when they announced their soon-to-be-released Google Home Max, and something Apple said was their main priority with their recently delayed Apple HomePod. And without a doubt, either of these two JBL speakers sound way better than the Google Home.
Stay live. Stay live. I got to keep it together. Keep it together. I got to keep it together.
First, let's talk about the Google Home. If you're building out a smart home and you plan on listening to a lot of music, then you're better off with any other smart speaker. The Google Home just isn't good for listening to music. It gets overpowered by its own bass, and vocalists sound like they're at the bottom of a well. Now, when it comes to sound quality between the Link speakers and the JBL Flip 4, the Link speakers perform much better than the JBL Flip 4. For starters, they don't have as much treble as the Flip 4, and they have a much more even sound signature. They also have a wider sound stage and more bass. The highs on the Flip 4 are also a little brighter than both of the Link speakers, and the Flip 4 does manage to get louder than both of these Link speakers, but at the expense of sound quality. Now, when it comes to comparing the Link 10 versus the Link 20, the biggest difference is the soundstage. The soundstage is just much wider, and the Link 20 has a little more bass, but it doesn't get all that much louder. The Link 20 just has slightly better sound quality and deeper lows than the Link 10. Now let's talk about issues found on the JBL Link speakers. First, they're using Bluetooth 4.2, which is good. They're good for about a range of 70 feet, but the problem is, if you're going to watch a video using either of these two speakers and streaming over Bluetooth, there's a significant delay to the point that it's unwatchable. Whereas with the Flip 4, there's still a delay, but it's not as bad as the Link speakers. Another problem I have with these Link speakers are the constant Wi-Fi indicator lights on the front. You can't turn them off and you can't even dim them. If you plan on placing one of these smart speakers in your bedroom, then the light can get pretty annoying for light sleepers like me. I personally feel the Wi-Fi indicator light should only turn on if there's a problem with the Wi-Fi connection, because even Google's own Google Home doesn't have a constantly on Wi-Fi indicator light. But my biggest problem are the included wall adapter and USB charging cable for these speakers. Like I said, I feel these speakers should be looked as Google Home smart speaker alternatives. If you buy a smart speaker, you want it to be listening for a hot word at all times, so when you need it, it's ready to go right then and there. And in order for the JBL Link 10 or Link 20 to always be listening, they have to always be turned on. So obviously they will constantly need to be plugged in because their battery lives won't last too long. And also if they're inactive for a while, they'll automatically shut off if they're not plugged in. But the included USB cables are way shorter than the cable the Google Home has, and it's an obnoxiously bright orange. It's not going to look good if you place it in a living room. And like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, the Link 10 doesn't come included with a wall adapter, and for a $150 speaker, that's ridiculous. Personally, I feel both of these speakers should come included with wall adapters, but more importantly, they should come with longer black or white cables. Because if you want to use either of these speakers to their fullest potential, they need to constantly be on and plugged in. But something else I've noticed with the JBL Link speakers is that there are some features missing that are found on the Google Home. For starters, if you try to place a phone call by using Google Assistant, the JBL speakers won't work, whereas the Google Home will place a phone call with no problem. I also noticed the new broadcast feature doesn't fully work with the JBL speakers. If you tell the JBL speakers to broadcast something, only the Google Home will broadcast the message. And if you tell the Google Home to broadcast something, the JBL speakers won't do anything. All I'm saying is that if you decide to get either of these JBL speakers as a replacement for a Google Home, then it might take a little longer for you to get the latest features, sort of like how Google's Pixel phones get the newest OS updates right away, whereas third-party manufacturer Android phones might get the newest OS a few weeks later. So could this mean there might be some fragmentation in the future? I don't know, you tell me.
Okay everybody, it's time for you to like and subscribe.
Like I've said in past videos, I think it's great third-party manufacturers are embracing voice assistants, and JBL did an okay job with their JBL Link series. It's a really good option for people who prefer to use Google Assistant and are pretty invested in the Google ecosystem. The Link 10 and Link 20 perform just as well as the Google Home, but sound much better. Signing them up and using them is a breeze, and they have no problem switching from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth streaming, something the UE Blast and Mega Blast really struggled with. But they do have their design quirks like needlessly constant on indicator lights and cables that are too short. The Link 10 and Link 20 don't really compete with the JBL Flip 4 or JBL Charge 3. They're smart speakers that I feel predominantly should live in your home because they're best when they're connected to Wi-Fi and they don't have the longest battery lives. The Flip 4 and Charge 3 are the ones I would take on a camping trip, to the beach, or on a hike. I like the JBL Link 20 and Link 10, but they do have room for improvement. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It helps out more than you realize. For more product reviews and deal alerts, check out jimcaddy.net. If you want to support the channel, pick up a shirt. And I'll catch you next time.